definitely hard to do the older you get.
I know you always wear black undies, but
I do.
Never go white.
Randy Orton has never been shy about speaking his mind, but his most recent comments shook the wrestling world. Orton finally admitted what many wrestlers had only whispered about for years. Behind the curtain, there has always been deep resentment toward Hulk Hogan. For decades, Hogan was marketed as the ultimate hero, the larger-than-life superstar who carried wrestling into mainstream culture. Fans saw him as a superhero. But backstage, many wrestlers saw something very different. A manipulator, a politician, and a man who would sacrifice anyone's career to protect his own. Orton's words opened the floodgates on a long history of betrayal and politics, and it became clear why so many of Hogan's peers despised him. The resentment didn't come from nowhere. It built up over decades, starting as far back as the 1980s. Jesse "the Body" Ventura once tried to start a union for wrestlers. His plan was bold but necessary. Wrestlers had no health insurance, no retirement, no protection.
Shane Helms, but Vince is walking in the hallway. We needed a name for this thing. My Randy Keith Orton are my initials, and I came up. I'm like, TK.
At all. A union could have changed the entire business. But before it could even get started, the idea was killed. Years later, Ventura discovered the reason why. Hulk Hogan himself went to Vince McMahon and exposed the plan. Hogan chose to protect his own spot at the top rather than stand with his peers. Ventura never forgave him, and wrestlers were left without protections for generations to come. The pattern continued in the 1990s. At Survivor Series 1991, The Undertaker defeated Hogan to win the WWE Championship. It should have been a breakthrough moment for the young star, but Hogan claimed afterward that Undertaker's finishing move, the Tombstone, injured his neck. The accusation devastated Undertaker, who feared being labeled unsafe in the ring. But when the footage was reviewed, Hogan's head never touched the mat. The injury was a lie. For Undertaker, the realization that Hogan had manipulated the situation purely to protect himself was crushing. Even one of the most respected men in the business wasn't safe from Hogan's games. Then came Bret, the hit man Hart. In 1993, Hart was the champion and the natural successor to Hogan's role as the company's top star. But when it came time for Hogan to pass the torch, he refused. Instead of dropping the title to Bret, Hogan chose to lose it in an overbooked finish to Yokozuna. Hart later revealed that Hogan dismissed him, saying he wasn't in his league. Bret never forgave the slight, calling Hogan a phony piece of garbage. For many fans, that refusal was one of the clearest examples of Hogan's refusal to help the next generation. These stories show why so many wrestlers came to distrust him. Working with Hogan meant living in fear of being buried or betrayed if it suited his interests. And then came the scandal that destroyed Hogan's image completely. In 2015, leaked audio recordings revealed him using racist slurs while talking about his daughter, Brooke's, personal life. The fallout was immediate. WWE terminated his contract, erased his name from their website, and removed him from the Hall of Fame. For someone who built his entire identity on being immortal, this erasure was devastating. But what hurt most was the reaction from his peers. The New Day rejected his apology, saying it wasn't sincere. Mark Henry admitted Hogan's words caused real pain. Even Orton himself quietly showed agreement with posts labeling Hogan a racist. Wrestlers who once worked with him now openly express their disdain. The scandal reframed Hogan's entire career. Stories about refusing to lose, sabotaging peers, and lying about injuries no longer looked like isolated moments of ego. They looked like part of a lifelong pattern. Orton had his own experience in 2006. As the Legend Killer, he was scheduled to face Hogan at SummerSlam. The original plan was for Orton to win, cementing his rise as the future of WWE. But Hogan refused to lose. On TV, fans saw Hogan pin Orton. What they didn't see was the frustration behind the scenes. Orton's credibility took a hit, and while he went on to become a world champion many times, that moment could have been a career-defining win. Instead, it became another example of Hogan protecting his legacy at the expense of someone else's. Shawn Michaels had a similar experience in 2005. He was supposed to face Hogan in a series of matches. Hogan would win the first, Michaels the second, and then a rubber match to finish. But Hogan refused to return the favor. In protest, Michaels mocked him by overselling his moves in their match, turning it into one of the strangest performances in SummerSlam history. Hogan got his win, Michaels never got the rematch, and bitterness grew deeper. By this point, Hogan's reputation backstage was cemented. He was known not as a leader, but as someone who derailed careers and broke promises. And yet, there was another side to his story. Hogan himself admitted later in life that he struggled with severe addiction to painkillers. Years of punishment in the ring left him dependent on medication just to get through the day. He described being caught in a vicious cycle, unable to function without pills, but unable to stop. It explained some of his erratic behavior, but it never excused the choices he made. Addiction might explain poor judgment, but it didn't erase the betrayals or the racism scandal. In his later years, Hogan still tried to cling to the image of Hulkamania. He gave interviews, told stories, and sold merchandise. But the industry had moved on. Many wrestlers never forgave him. When Hogan passed away in July 2025, the reaction was far quieter than expected for a man who once defined an entire era. Some colleagues offered polite condolences, others stayed silent, and a few, like Shelton Benjamin, even criticized him publicly before his death, calling out his fabrications. It was a reminder that the wounds Hogan created never truly healed. Looking back, Randy Orton's comments weren't shocking. They were confirmation of what many already knew. Hogan wasn't just disliked because of personality clashes. He was resented because his behavior consistently hurt others. From betraying Jesse Ventura's union, to lying about Undertaker, to refusing Bret Hart, to burying Orton himself, the list of grievances was long. Add in the racism scandal and the years of selfish politics, and the picture becomes clear. Hulk Hogan was never the superhero his character portrayed. To many of his peers, he was the villain of his own story.